Hello, this is Father Basilio. Today I'm sharing a reflection about the Gospel that we are reading at Mass this Sunday. It's from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 20, verses 1 to 16. In this passage, Jesus says that the last will be first and the first will be last. Jesus is telling a parable to say a message that we should not think that we are better than others. And I think that when we compare ourselves to other people, we will be frustrated many times. I think we should focus on the purpose that God has for each one of us, the promises that God has for each one of us. He will bring to fulfillment His own purpose for each one of us. That should be our focus and not comparing ourselves to each other. So I'm going to read this passage with you, and then I will share a few words. The kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out at dawn to hire laborers for his vineyard. After agreeing with them for the usual daily wage, he sent them into his vineyard. Going out about 9 o'clock, saw others standing idle in the marketplace, and he said to them, "You too go into my vineyard, and I will give you what is just." So they went off, and he went out again around noon and around 3 o'clock, and did likewise. Going out about 5 o'clock, he found others standing around, and he said to them, "Why are you standing here idle all day?" They answered, "Because no one has hired us." He said to them, "You too go into my vineyard." When it was evening, the owner of the vineyard said to the foreman, "Summon the laborers and give them their pay, beginning with the last and ending with the first." When those who had started about 5 o'clock came, each received the usual daily wage. So when the first came, they thought that they would receive more, but each of them also received the usual wage. And on receiving it, they grumbled against the landowners, saying, "These last ones worked only 1 hour, and you made them equal to us, who bore the day's burden and the heat." He said to one of them in reply, "My friend, I am not cheating you. Did you not agree with me for the usual daily wage? Take what is yours and go. What if I wish to give the last one the same as you? Or am I not free to do as I wish with my own money? Are you envious because I am generous? Thus the last will be first, and the first will be last." Jesus says that the kingdom of heaven is like this story. The kingdom of heaven is that happiness that we can find with God. The kingdom of heaven is that great peace that we can only find with God. The kingdom of heaven is when we find the complete fulfillment of our lives. The kingdom of heaven is when we become who we are meant to be, and our heart finds peace, finds happiness. That is the kingdom of heaven. And Jesus says that the kingdom of heaven is like this story, in the sense that if we compare ourselves to other people, we will be frustrated. Because God has given people different missions. God has given each people different gifts, different qualities. different potentials. God has given every person a different call. And if we spend our time comparing ourselves to other people, we will be frustrated. Maybe sometimes we will be happy when we compare ourselves to other people and we think that we are better than them. We may feel some satisfaction to think that I am doing better than that person. I am better than that person. But at the end, we will realize that when we spend our time comparing ourselves to other people, at the end we will be frustrated because we will not become who we are meant to be, because we will not become what God wants us to be. We will not achieve what God has intended us to achieve if we spend our time, if we spend our lives comparing ourselves to other people. Instead, I think this passage of the gospel is calling us to not compare ourselves to other people, but to follow what God has intended for us, to do what God wants us to do. So the main thing for me, it's not to follow what other people are doing. It's not trying to become better than others. But the main thing for me is to do what God wants me to do. That's the main thing. The main thing for me is to follow Jesus Christ. The main thing for me is to ask God, what do you want me to do in this life? What is your purpose for me? And if I follow that, at the end, I will be happy. I say at the end, not at the end of my life and then go to heaven. That will be also the greatest happiness, but if I get used to follow God and only God and focus on God and focus on God's will for me and focus on the purpose of God for me, I will be happy. I will have peace. I would not be frustrated when I see other people succeeding. I would not be frustrated when I see other people achieving greater things than me, because that's not my purpose. My purpose is not to compare myself to others, but my purpose is to do what I meant to be, is to become what God wanted me to be. And for that, I think we need to ask God, what is your purpose for me? What is your will for me? What is the mission that you have for me? How can I find my achievement in life? How can I find my fulfillment in life? And if we focus on that, on the will of God, then we will be happy when people also succeed in life. We will be happy when we see people achieving their purpose. And I think at the end, to end this reflection, I want to say that sometimes it's inspiring to compare ourselves to other people. If we see a person doing good things, so we may think, can I do that? If we see a person who is living in the same circumstances that we are doing and we see him doing well in life, working hard, so we may think, can I also achieve those things that he or she is achieving? So I think sometimes in that sense, when someone inspires us to follow a good example, sometimes it's helpful to compare ourselves, but at the end, we need to come back to God and say, Lord, I see this person doing that. Do you want me to do the same thing? Are you calling me to do a similar work like that? So I think the message for this week is that let's go back to the purpose that God has for each one of us. Let's go back to the mission that God wants for us. Let's not compare ourselves to other people. If a person inspires us to become better, that's great. But never lose sight of what God has called you to be. And if we follow what God wants us to be, if we focus on the mission that God has called us to do, and if we focus on the potentials and the gifts that God has given us, we will become happy, we will find that fulfillment, we will reach the kingdom of heaven. God bless you.